This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Yes, welcome back, everybody. Many times on this program, we get together with people who help other people. And I love it when we find people that walk the walk and talk the talk. And I found somebody that she's been through some challenges in her life and have taken those challenges, spun them around into amazing books and also a life coaching practice to help people realize certain things that may be going on in their life that they might not realize and just help them move forward. We're going to talk with her today. She's the woman behind Soulfully Wild Healing. Sherry Canino is on the program. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you, Steve, for having me. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you and what you do. There's so much to talk about here, from the books, your journey, how you help people in terms of coaching. One of the things I detect is narcissism. That seems to be a common theme, at least in one of your books. Was that dealing with a narcissistic family member one of your biggest challenges growing up?
Well, I think when you grow up in a family that's highly narcissistic, you don't realize it's a challenge until you get older and start to realize, usually after you've been in a couple of relationships, like, here's a pattern and you're seeing it from childhood.
You know, oftentimes when others talk about narcissism, it's never referred to within the family. It's usually in a relationship, you know, a partnership, that type of dynamic, but usually don't talk about it or see it, or people admit it, that it's connected to, you know, a family situation. So what I think I'm hearing from you, Sherry, is that that was part of your childhood and you realized it later in life, or maybe only realized it later in life, when you were involved in relationships with somebody who was a narcissist. Am I hearing that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would you say that that's all part of the classic notion that we gravitate toward what we're familiar with, and we pick certain relationships because they feel comfortable? Why? Because that's what we had in our childhood.
Yeah, very similar to what a narcissist, their cycle. Us, even non-narcissistic people, will try to heal what was, the traumas in our childhood in our adult relationships.
Yeah, I totally get it. I'm always transparent, and this is my view of that. I find myself being the magnet for people with anxiety. I don't know why. It's like I'm not a therapist, but they show up in my life, and then I thought about it. Why is this happening? And then I traced it back. My mom had anxiety. Never even thought of it as a kid, and then I had a little bit, but not like classic anxiety, and I didn't even realize it until later in life when I put those things together. I don't have any anxiety now. Everything's but it took time to figure that out and walk through that journey. But you don't know until, and it took shadow work and a lot of that to realize these things. You don't know it until you know it, and I got to believe that you coach people to help them realize some of these things that come from the childhood.
Well, even in a situation like that, people would be drawn to you because you knew how to handle it. You grew up in it. You naturally knew how to calm people without thinking about it.
It's true. And that leads us to, why does that happen? It's my belief, and I really would love your feedback on this, that we project energy out to others and they pick up on it and then they gravitate toward us. So whether it's, had a narcissistic situation growing up, you throw that out there and somebody picks up on it and like, oh, yep, she's the one, or oh yeah, he's the one. He's the You can help me with that anxiety. It's not intentional. It just happens that way. Do you think that that's what's going on there?
Yes. Excuse me. Yes. And also, we're drawn to what's familiar. So,
Absolutely.
more times than not in narcissistic relationships, we're the one that's drawn to that person. They're
Mm,
not, the narcissist isn't necessarily drawn to us. We're drawn to them because it feels familiar. And our, the body keeps the score, right? Our body is like trying to heal that trauma from the past. And what better way to do it than to find somebody very similar to a parental figure that you had that situation with, and you're trying to go through the motions again and make it right, so to speak.
mm. The familiarity is so classic in all of this. We crave what's comfortable, and then that's comfortable. Now, your book is called, one of your two books, it's called The Silent Abuse. Using that title, can you take us back to your childhood and just what prompted that book?
Well, my childhood wasn't really what prompted the book, but it really stemmed from I've been in three narcissistic abusive relationships. Two were diagnosed narcissists. So, um, I guess I would say, you know, when I started doing the deep dive, I had already seen the situation with my family in the past, and I knew that I had been narcissistic. My mom would have been borderline, high narcissistic traits. My dad would have been classic narcissism. Um, and, you know, you grow up in chaos, you get used to chaos,
Hmm.
and you live in chaos, and you're drawn towards chaos when your life is calm. It doesn't feel right.
I have a friend, funny you should say that. I have a friend that and she deals with anxiety and some other things, but just what you said, when things calm down, that's when she gets triggered because she's not used to it. Yeah. Wow. Mm.
Yeah.
Why did you call the book The Silent Abuse?
Because even for the people that are in it, it's silent. You don't know it's happening. A lot of it is very much psychological. It's not always what everybody thinks like physical.
Mm.
It's all the psychological and mental abuse that goes on that then you grow up and you're like, what's wrong with me? I have all these toxic relationships. Why can't I pick right?
Mm.
And then you really, like you said, you start doing the deep dive and you start doing the shadow work and you start seeing where everything points back to not do as I say, not as I do, because it's just ingrained in you. You just learn it.
And this is why you hear many women say, "There aren't there any normal, nice guys out there? Why do I keep the ones I keep finding? They're no." And then I have male friends that say, "All women are crazy." There's another one. Look at here's more evidence of it, and it probably traces back to past relationships. But I almost don't want to say this, but you asked for it in some regards.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe not intentionally asked for it, but it showed up for a reason. And then you have a jaded picture of what's out there.
Well, if we don't take accountability, right? So if we don't say, oh, yeah, I can see that I was being drawn to that type of person, I was being drawn to that facade. And I'm not saying take accountability for the fact that somebody abused you, because that's never right. And I never blame the victim. But if we're just like, oh, well, it's all their fault and they were drawn to me, and we don't take accountability, then we're being narcissistic in actuality. So, you
Yeah,
know, we have to see our part in the situation.
sure. Well, it's a relationship, takes two.
Yes.
It could be somebody could do something horrible, but and the scale could tip like that, and it could be 80-20%. But
Yeah.
it takes two. Um,
Yeah.
do you feel that many people in narcissistic relationships, whether it's younger people and parents, whether it's partnerships, whatever, most don't even know what's going on. They have no idea that this person is a narcissist.
Yes, or you get the other side of the coin where everybody thinks everyone is,
Hmm.
which is a lot. It's become a buzzword. And I will
Yeah.
say that there's a lot of people that are highly narcissistic, but there's healthy narcissism, there's toxic narcissistic traits, and then there's the full-blown NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. And I get a lot of people who want me to diagnose their significant other
Mm,
like via Zoom. And I'm like, first of all, I'm not even meeting with the person, and it does take time. I I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. But if you're in a toxic relationship, let's work on that.
mm. You said something that stopped me in my tracks a moment ago, and you said healthy narcissistic relationship or something to that regard.
Healthy narcissism.
Please
Well,
explain. I'm not getting
so
it.
if you or I didn't have any type of healthy narcissism, meaning putting ourselves first, we'd never take care of ourselves.
Okay. Hmm.
Looking out for ourselves, understanding we're in a toxic relationship, but we need to choose for us and leave. There's healthy narcissism. It's when it becomes malignant that it turns into a whole nother situation.
So why don't we go back to basics right now and define a narcissist? And there can be variations here and there, but broadly, how would you define it?
Well, they're usually very grandiose, meaning they have a hierarchy. It's not just like, oh, I'm so great. A lot of people think that that's what it is, but no, they literally believe that they are better than everybody else. So that's, I mean, there's the different criteria. There's so much to get into, but
Sure.
even just with something like that, to try to get people to understand, like, we all have things that we see ourselves better than others about,
Hmm.
but a narcissist will look at people in a room and be like, scope them out and like, oh, I'm better than this person, I'm better than that person, kind of create a hierarchy of where they think they fit up here and where everybody else really fits. That's one of the biggest ones. No accountability for anything. So, you know, anytime anything goes wrong, I mean, could be like, it rained today. Well, it's going to be your fault. They're not, it doesn't
Mm,
matter what it is. They do not take accountability. It's a shame. It's the personality disorder is based on shame, feeling a lot of shame. So, in order for them to take accountability. I mean, think about times when maybe you or I have like hurt somebody's feelings and they're like, hey, you did this or you said this. You feel bad. Like you initially may feel a little bit like shame, hurt, guilt, whatever. But then we're like, oh, yeah, I can see it. I'm so sorry. Whereas they're going to twist it around and be like, you did this, and that. And, it's your fault.
mm.
So yeah, there's so much to narcissism. I mean, they have like the criteria of defining it, but what people don't understand, it's not like one day out of, 300, we might feel better than somebody in a certain circumstance or whatever. It's like all day, every day, 365, and they're very delusional. So they live in a fantasy world that they just create. They create this, what Professor Sam Vaknin calls a false self. They
Mm.
basically have abandoned in childhood, they abandoned their own true authentic self, and they create this fake facade, which is what we're all drawn to. So most of them, and I will say, at least, I don't know with the women, clearly, but for the men, what I was drawn to was the fake facade of being a strong man. Like that's what I wanted, a man's man. But once you start to get to know them, you realize that they're not strong in anything. You know, they're actually adult children and they're very weak in the emotional and mental capacity and very immature in the capacity
Mm.
there as well. So,
So it sounds like it's the grand facade where they're just covering up for what's inside, and what's inside maybe shame, uh, feeling inadequate. Um, Maybe they got bullied, and
mhm.
that has turned into that shell of narcissism to make it, look like they got it going on. They're strong and all that, but
Yeah.
it's all a facade.
Yeah. You'll see a lot of them, and I people are going to be like, "Don't say that," but I've noticed a lot of them, especially this day and age that tattoos have become a thing. A lot of them will have a lot of tattoos. They want to look big and scary. They'll do things. They'll smoke cigarettes, things that give them what they think in their mind, the look of I'm tough, I'm strong, don't mess with me. And what a lot of people also don't understand is that a lot of them have been brutally traumatized and abused as children. But there's the other side of the children, more so, I think, in this day and age that are coming up that are very narcissistic, is that they've been overspoiled, told they can do no wrong. Helicopter parents,
Mm.
parents that parentify them, parents that don't want to let them grow up, that want to like make them their best friend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, you've studied this. You've lived it.
Yeah, I've done a
Mm.
lot of studying, a lot of studying.
I find it fascinating, and yeah, it was buzzword that kicked in. I don't know, 5 years ago ish,
Mhm.
seven. Um, Still around, obviously. Now that there's
Yeah.
awareness, um, I've heard that the best way to deal with a narcissist is to present facts. Always give them the facts because they can't deny the facts. But hearing what you're saying is they'll do whatever they have to, to deflect it.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of people call it gaslighting. So a psychopath actually gaslights because they know the difference between truth and not truth. Uh, Narcissists will confabulate. So they actually believe their own lies. They lose a lot of time. They dissociate so much that um, I think it's said that they lose about 80 to 90% of their memories throughout their life.
Wow.
Yeah, so they make it up as they go along. And so they don't know that they believe their own lie. Like present them with facts, that's a huge narcissistic injury. So you're gonna see punishment. You do that to a narcissist, I wouldn't advise it, but I
Wow.
advise walk away,
Well,
walk
this
away.
this you crystallize it in what you just said that they're walking in a fantasy world.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
not like, yeah, I'm going to play her. Yeah, she's going to play. I'm going to dominate her with my mind and play these head games and everything because it makes me feel big and stronger and all of that. But that doesn't seem like what's going on here. They're damaged. We all are damaged in
Mhm.
some regards, but they're damaged in a certain way that they're just believing their own BS.
Yes.
I didn't know that when it comes to a narcissist. Wow.
Yeah.
Mm. And how do you deal with that? I mean,
That's just it. You could be like, here's the facts, like here is hardcore facts. And,
yeah.
you know,
Mm.
at that point, yeah, they can't deny it, but you're going to create a huge narcissistic injury and they're going to silent treatment, they're going to a lot of things. It depends on the one, rage,
Yeah.
they get into a narcissistic rage. It looks like a giant toddler, like throwing a fit, but can be pretty scary.
This is insightful, interesting, a bit scary. The your book called The Silent Abuse. Tell us a little bit about that.
So that's my own personal memoir and my account of my life, a kind of a an overview. I feel like I could write probably three more books, but um, it kind of gives a little bit of from childhood on up to, my last narcissistic relationship and what it's like growing up in a narcissistic abusive home. I work with a lot of clients who have, and I actually have had a few people reach out and like, can you do more TikToks on, you know, growing up in, having a narcissistic parent? Because my parents have passed because I'm the youngest of eight, but a lot of people's parents are not. They're still alive, so they're still dealing with it. So, I'll just give you an example with my mom, especially as she got older. So, I'm working early stages of when we started having cell phones, so I got a job, I'm working, and she would just call me nonstop. My office phone, my work phone, my office phone. Like, if she couldn't get a hold of me, she would just keep calling and calling and calling.
Mm.
And I would finally answer, and it's like, I was very much parentified. So I was her go-to best friend. Let me tell you everything about how dad is terrible and everything he's done. And, so
You were the therapist.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah, from like 5 years old. So, you know, they're like, I hate to say they're crazy, but they have crazy behaviors. And I would have to deal with that. So, I mean, I'd be like on the phone, and I'm like, Mom, I can't talk now. My boss would be walking back and forth, and and that's in adulthood after I've moved out of the house.
The first thing that comes to my mind is that you've moved on as an adult. You've left the nest, if you will, and
Right.
she may have been feeling, well, I'm losing her. I need to, tentacles have to come out and
Yep.
bring it back in because I need
Oh,
her.
yes.
Why do I need her? Well, I can dump my stuff on her, but
Mhm.
also at the same time, maybe a control thing too.
Oh, yeah. They're
Yeah.
all about control. And
Wow.
I would be the one that would give her what they call narcissistic supply. So validation,
Mm.
you know. I was trained to be like, yes, dad's terrible. We hate dad. I know you're the victim, on and on and on.
Basically, it sounds like you told her what she wanted to hear just to get it over with, move on,
Yeah, it's actually a trauma response. That's called fawning.
Oh, my gosh, I'm learning a lot today, and I'm
I know I'm blowing your mind. Too
no, you
much.
are.
Too
It's like,
much.
we hear the term narcissist, we loosely know what it is, but the depth that you provide, um, you're like the go-to expert in my world here when it comes to this category.
Well, on my website, I will say, on my website, soulfullywild.com, I do have the 9 criteria of diagnosing a narcissist. So I do have a reference page with stuff for people. I try to keep putting stuff on there I try to put out as much free stuff as I can because narcissists are infamous for just financial abuse. So,
Part of me wants to go to your website and see those 9. Part of me doesn't because I'm going to look at it and say, oh, I never knew that person was a narcissist as well. Sherry, we're out of time. Um,
okay.
we have lots to talk about next time we get together.
I
Um,
know.
give us your website once again.
SoulfullyWild.com.
Love it. And love what you do and what you provide. Certainly when you go there, much insight on the books that you have. And if
Yes.
anybody is, feeling that they're going through challenges, not even in a narcissistic way, just looking for some life coaching and want to pilot their life forward, reach out, go to the website, start a conversation. Sherry, great having you on here.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. It's going to take me a little while to process everything we talked about because it's a lot of new stuff that I didn't realize that I thought I knew. And we'll get together next time and dig in more. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.